Okay, so let's go through how to use this tool. First thing is that you need to enter in your source of a lead, even if you just enter one. I've just entered in some samples here for now. So in the setup tab, or in the setup tabs, you've got a few different tabs in the bottom. Just type in your source of lead. I've just called this letter version 1, and that's it. These are rigid, these are fixed. Do not change these because the formulas are based on those exact wording of those. If you want to change, if you want to add some steps in here, then that's fine. Let me know and I can do that. Same with these. These are the poor outcome reasons, so not interested, email bounce, etc. I'll show you that in a second. So these are your typical call activities and outcomes. So called, address obtained, called, dead number, called, no interest, called, phone rang out, called, hung up, called, and then you call again. Okay, so then you're on the activity worksheet. Now that's where you'll be using the data all the time. First of all, just put in a start date. It typically needs to be a Monday, which makes it a little bit difficult because I'm actually testing this on a Saturday, but I'm just going to backdate this a little bit and make it back to the 8th of June. Hopefully that won't confuse you as I'm showing this. So then you need to get your list. So if you've got your list, put it into another, create a worksheet down the bottom here, add a new worksheet, and then give it a name for whatever the list is. So I've just called this D&B for the sake of an example. And then make sure your list is sorted so the column A and B is company name and then the phone number. Just call it phone. Don't worry about whether it's a landline or a mobile. Just call it phone, and then copy off some of these names. You might want to copy off 50 or a couple of hundred, whatever you want to do, that's okay. And just copy the data that you got there, obviously company name, phone number, and then we go back to our activity, and then we've got our company name, phone number, and we're just going to paste that in there. So you can, like I say, it doesn't matter if you paste 50 or 100 or 5 or whatever number. Put in the date. So start the spreadsheet on a Monday, put in the date that you first make your first call. Doesn't really matter what day that is, but let's say it is that Monday. And now we make our phone call. So let's say that we made a phone call. We've called this number and we've got some success. We've got the business owner's name. Just going to show you something here in a second. And we think we've got all the details and we had some success. So this is the activity. So there's 8 different types of activities that you're using the spreadsheet for. But let's say that we had our called and we had our address obtained. Now what's happened? A couple of things straight away. One is it's saying all address information obtained. So I don't know if you picked up, but I missed this column here. And it might be you just forgot to ask for it or something like that. So this is a red flag for when you've forgotten any information that is critical, which is these first 4 things. These, well, you got these things here. If you've forgotten any of those, you're going to get a red in here and it'll say no at the top of that column. So when I didn't have the postcode in, that's what happened. So that's just sort of an indicator for you, a red flag that you need to do something. Now that only comes up if it says called, address obtained. Obviously if you made the phone call and it was a dead number, then nothing is coming up here. So that's the first step. So let's say we made the call. So now the next thing is that this column here, this is saying, well, what's your next thing that you need to do? And in this case, the next thing is you need to send out an email. But the reason this is yellow because it's asking for a date. So this column here where it says activity 2 due or further over activity 3 due, it's asking for a date, and that's why it's yellow. Yellow is like you've missed something here, enter something in. So let's say that we made calls, but on this date we're not sending the emails. All we're going to do is call all day. So let's say we're going to do that on the next day. Then we'd type in that date there. Now the reason that's red at the moment is because that's in the past. And that's where if you open up the spreadsheet and you open up and you see red, that means that you're behind on doing that task. Because today is the 20th while I'm filling this in. So if I put in there, I'm going to be doing this in my time frame, which would be the next day, then it'll be blue. So anything in future, so let's say it's the 25th of the 6th, then that's going to be blue, which means that on the day that you open the spreadsheet, if today's date is that date, that'll now be green, which you'll see if I put in today's date, it's now green. Alright, so because I'm filling this in from sample data and I'm imagining I'm making this call in a time frame behind today, that's why it's showing red. But what happens is when you go and do this task, which in this case would be email sent, that's the next step in it, then you put in the date that you completed this task, and you'll notice that the red now goes. So normally that'll be green, so when it's green you would do that task and then you put in the date, which would be the same date as completing that task. Now this is a dead number, so there wouldn't be any follow-up task. So that's the first step. So you make your phone call, always put in your date. That's the first thing you want to put in is today's date, select your version number. Now if you're missing data in here, you're going to get these red flags up here. So anything in this row that's got these red appearing means that you're missing something. You should have completed something that you haven't. And when we complete what we're meant to complete, then you'll notice that the red now disappears. Let's say that we're onto our third one and we're making our third call. And let's say that we had some success with this one again. I'm just going to cheat and copy that same data in here, because the outcome we got was we did obtain the address. We've got a yellow again, so let's just get rid of our yellow by making sure we've always got something in that date because we got an address. And our next activity is that. All right. So then you come back and you do that activity and you've sent your email. So let's say that we've done that as well. Now all you might want to do on one day is just keep making all those calls and just use that for one day and just keep going down. Now at the end of the week, let's say that we've hit the end of the week, you might want to type in the word end, and all that does is help you visually, when you've got a lot of data in here, this helps a lot, is just to visually see where the end of the week is, and then you just type in 2 and then keep going through your data for the week, and then when you hit your end of the week you just type in end again and then put a 3 and so on and so forth. Keep going down the page like that. All right, and it just helps a lot visually to be able to go back to previous work, because you'll be using many rows of this spreadsheet at any one time, so it does help to put this in just to visually see where those end of the week's activities are. Alright, so I'm going to move forward. So you would probably keep going down this column and just keep doing all this sort of thing, and then at the end of the week you go, okay, where are all our email only, and then let's send all those emails out to people. So let's say that we're up to here. We've made our fourth call. Let's say that was an outcome that wasn't good. No, let's make it an address obtain. Let's make it that one. And we've got all our address details in here. So far so good. 9th to the 6th. And we've actioned that. Let's say that on the same day we did send that email. And we did send that. And we're done. Alright. So that's the status of that so far, but let's say that we're going to do some more work on this same lead. So what happens is we send our email, and you might have found that the email bounced. Okay, well then what's that mean? Well, then you're going to have another activity due here, and that activity might be, okay, tomorrow, in this case, would be the next day, and I need to go and call again. So I'm calling again to get the correct email. And let's say that we completed that task on that day, then that's what that would look like. Or we've completed our email for this one and we didn't have a poor outcome, so we just leave that column blank and we put in the date, because it's asking us all the time if we've done a task and what's the next one. So as soon as you select something in here, it's saying, well, when's your planned next follow-up task on that? So in this case, let's say we've sent our email. Well, we need to send the letter. So we're going to put in the 10th to the 6th. And let's say on the same day we are sending out the letter. All right. So again, it's going to say, well, you put a task in here, you put an activity in here. Well, when's your follow-up? So in this case, if we sent the letter, the next activity will be we're sending an email, but it's not going to be on the same day. It might be a week later. So we might put in here the 17th. And when the 17th comes due, that will be green. So at the moment it's in my past, but in your case it would be in your future, so that would be showing blue. So if I made that the 22nd, for example, you'll see that it's blue, and then when you open up the spreadsheet on the day, it'll be green, which would be showing green, and then you do your task, and then you follow it, carry on. So let's say in my case, That is 7 days after the letter was sent. That's the time frame I think you should be following up. That would be the 17th of the 6th, and that one there. So that's saying the same thing. So we've called again, and that would pretty much be maybe the next day that we're going to make that call. And then we made the call, and then we've sent the email again. In this case, we've sent the letter, so our next scheduled task would be send the follow-up email to follow-up, because that's the next step after the letter sent us to do the follow-up. Let's say that we actually did that on the day that it was scheduled. It would look like that. And then as we're following these through, then a little bit later we sent the first email. Then it's saying, well, when are you going to schedule the next task? And because that was the 11th, let's make that the 11th of the 6th. And then we sent that email. Then after an email, we need to send the letter with the coin. So that would be on the same day we'd want to send that. Our follow-up. So the follow-up to the second email, I think, should be the next day. We're going to do a follow-up. Oops, that's 18th to the 6th in my case. So we sent the follow-up email. I think 1 day later is when you want to do the follow-up phone call to that email. If you sent the email in the morning, you could actually do it in the afternoon, but I found most business owners are not looking at their emails on the same day. They might only look at them first thing in the morning, and that's it. So I'd suggest you do the follow-up to the second email, which follows up the letter on the next day. So that would be 1 day in advance. Let's say that we'll tracking our time and doing what we should on the day it's due. So when that's green, we're doing that. So we sent the email. In this case, the next step would be letter, and we've sent the follow-up email. The next stage would be a follow-up phone call. And again, now this is all happening as you're moving across it. This is different days of your week. So down the column would be the same day of the week. So as you're working on this, a lot of this would be the same as far as the dates, but because we're going across as we go down, these are tasks that you need to follow up. So sometimes you'll scroll across to say, well, where's all my green tasks? So as you come into this spreadsheet every day, you open it up and you scroll across and go, where's my green task? Because the green will signify that's the task you need to do today. And then you can just scroll across to see where's all your green activities that you need to do. And if you've taken care of your green going across, then you can work down the column again with new leads. So that way you're seeing very quickly as you open up your spreadsheet every day, if you've taken care of all your green tasks or your red tasks. Red means you should have already done it, so the red is overdue, but anything that's green, you'll be able to open up this spreadsheet, see any green actions that you need to take for the next activity across. And then you take that activity, you complete it, and then you've scheduled yourself into the future to do those tasks. That's great. And then, yeah, if you've taken care of your green ones, then you keep working down the list, and then you create more things in that process, all right? So let's say that we're going across here, and we'll just keep following across here. And in this case, we've sent that gold coin letter because we've just sent it saying, well, when are we going to do a follow-up? And that's, remember, 7 days later, so 7 on that, and that would be 18. And this one, well, we've made our second follow-up phone call to email. So we've made the follow-up phone call to email. Now this is where you may get no interest. So we've follow up, they've listened but not interested. Let's say that could have been the outcome, or you follow up call but the owner was unavailable. Sometimes they say, what's it all about? Who are you? We'll get them to ring you. Sometimes you kind of a bit hard to get out of that. So it might be a left message, or it might be simply you've follow up phone call made but you didn't get the business owner and you're trying to ring again. So that's just kind of your 3 outcomes that you're likely to get. You've made a follow-up phone call, you've listened but they're not interested. You made a follow-up phone call, they're unavailable, but you were meant to leave a message, or you had to leave a message, or maybe you rang, you didn't leave, you weren't forced to leave a message, so you just made yourself a note, okay, I'm going to follow that up again, and we'd follow up maybe the next day, and we put that in like that. Now, let's say that that email went through. They might have even come back and had a response that said unsubscribe. They might say thanks, but stop annoying us, or we're not interested, whatever, and then you would put that. So when you hit a sort of a roadblock where you can't proceed with this this lead as you're moving through here, then you need to record these outcome reasons. Why did we stop here? So they're still in the sales funnel here, but you sent an email, the email come back, said, look, we're not interested. That might be the case here, and then it might be the same here. You might have sent the letter, and then the letter came back with letter return or wrong address. So when it's got a slash, it means either one. So you might have sent the letter out, and then it might be the wrong address. That's usually what would happen, and that's for how you would leave that. Now, if you need to have more poor outcome reasons, just let me know, because then I've got to go back. I've just got to go back to the setup here and then change some of these. So I'm happy to do that. There is a bit of work though to do that. It's not as simple as it looks. So talk to me before you change that. So let's say that we didn't get that. We sent our letter with coin. We're following it up. We've done our second phone call here, follow-up phone call made, but we didn't get the business owner. So again, we schedule in when our next activity is due. And let's say that we were diligent. We did that on the day it was meant to. We did that one on the day it was meant to. Then what's our next activity? Well, we sent the letter with the coin with this one. This would be, well, we made a follow-up phone call. In this case, we tried the call and we didn't get much success. This time, let's say that we did call them and we managed to get an appointment booked. Fantastic. Then this one here is highlighting that we need to do a follow-up on that. That's great. Appointment booked into the calendar. You could even do that became a client. You might want to put that in a little bit later so that you booked an appointment. Let's say a week later you had that appointment. So it might be the 26th of the 6th, that sort of thing. And you've won a new client. All right? And then the outcome of that might be no sale, no interest or whatever. I haven't worried too much about the outcomes from a client appointment. Again, I'm happy to modify it so we can do that. And same with this. So you could stop there. I'd suggest you go to the next step so that you can start to see, well, you had an appointment. What was the outcome of that? Might have been new client one, might have been not interested. If that's the case, then I need to add some columns in here so you can sort of start tracking that a bit better. So some of these may drag out with tasks. You've done a follow-up phone call here. That was due. Shortly after that is the follow-up phone call made. So we're trying to get the appointment booked, yes or no. So we put in our date here. And when we've completed that task, then we put in the date next to it. And that's it. So I've created it so you've got 8 activities, but you would generally stop before you get there. So it might be a calendar booked into appointment, and then you got the sale or you didn't. So you may not get through all activities. Now it's designed that you're not ringing people constantly 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times and constantly going through the motions. I recommend you make 3 phone calls and that's it. Stop. If you haven't got success by then you're probably not going to get success, so just stop. The idea of this is that when you just open this spreadsheet for the day, you come in, you open it up, what you'll see is green, and the first things you want to do is go and do all those green. So you start at the top of the spreadsheet and just simply scroll across, and anywhere you see a green, that's an activity that needs to be done for today. So in this case, we look at that and we say, okay, the email was sent. Let's say that had an action date of the 21st. Let's just make it congruent. Oops, 21st of the 6th. And so we can just log in and we say, okay, the last thing we did was the email sent. Okay, I'm due to send the letter then. Let's make sure I do that. So the letter is being sent today, and you go and send the letter, and then you would put in that date like that. So then you scroll across here, and then you very quickly see, okay, what else have I got to do? So that's the next thing that needs to be done, email sent. So I haven't actioned it. That's why you put this in after you've actioned it, and then you say, yes, I have now completed that task, and then that's now not showing. But because we just did this task, letter was sent, letter with coin sent. So again, what's the next follow-up? Okay, I've got to make the phone call. That's right, 7 days later. So let's put in that a week later, and that's blue because it's in the future, which is how we want it. And then when we're actioning that task, we can put in what that task was, which is our follow-up phone call. And if it was on that day, it's a look a bit odd because that's way into the future, but that'll be highlighting yellow, which means we need to plan for our next activity, etc. So as you see, it's just a matter of opening up and seeing if you're putting in really good accurate dates, thinking about your dates. So whatever that activity is. So if you just obtain the address, you want to be sending the email soon after. It might be a day, might be a few days, but then you want to schedule the letter to be sent one day or on the same day as the email. I think you should send the letter with the coin on the same day as you send the email, because then you're sending an email that says, hey, there's a letter coming, and then they're anticipating that letter. You can actually send the email a day after the letter if you like, so that way they'll get the letter on about the day that they get the email, or the next day, which is ideal. And then from sending out the letter, then you want to give them 1 week to have received the mail, opened the mail, read the mail. So it might be you send it on a Tuesday and then ring them on the Tuesday or the Monday. I'd suggest about the calendar week is a good time frame. And yeah, and then you're scheduling that as you go. You sent your letter, then you're doing your follow-up email to the letter. And if you sent the letter, then a week later you send your follow-up email. The next task would be to do the follow-up phone call. So that would be the follow-up phone call, and then you make your follow-up phone call to the follow-up email 1 day later, and away you go. So this tool becomes your friend, and it helps you, instead of trying to remember everything, you just got to put in your dates accurately of when the next scheduled task is, and then when you open up that spreadsheet, you haven't got to try and remember everything. You just got to open it up, scroll across, see in this case we're seeing red, so it's like, whoops, I forgot that. I should have done that task. So let's say that we did that task. That's now completed, and then it takes the red off. So you want to always see blue and green when you open this up. And that way you can keep a track of all your activities and what you've done. So let's say that you might have called, and you call, but you got to call again for whatever reason. So you schedule your call, and so this one would say call again. So that's our next scheduled activity. You might have called them a second time, and then you've said, oh, okay, let's call them one more time. This is the third time, but after you've called, then it might have been that you didn't get your success, and then that would be the poor communication outcome here, whatever it is. All right, so the idea is the spreadsheet's tracking all your activities, and like I say, at the end of the week you just type in end, and then come in the next week you type in your week number in the next one, and away you go. I'll just take you through the sales week data and what it's showing. So here what it's doing is it's tracking these are the outcomes of all the calls you've made in this time frame. So that's where we're putting in our dates of all of our activities. And we're seeing all the activities here as a total. This is our total call activity for the week. So we've got, in this case, this column is showing that on the first day of calling, we got 2 addresses obtained. So it's sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's going to be this. That's why we want to start our calendar on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Called dead number, called no interest, etc., etc. So this is sort of all the calls that you made in a week will be here, and this will be the total of all the calling activities for the week will be in this column. Here's where we've selected the list, and I've only been working off the first list. That's our activity here as far as our source of our lead, and that's saying that from this lead source, this is all the results that we've obtained, whether we've address obtained or whatever it is, and this is giving our success ratio. It's tracking our success ratio. Here's the number of businesses that we've got information for, or the number that we've called. So that's tracking it here as far as the dates and the businesses. So if there's no date in here, if you've copied and pasted a lot of businesses data in here, it's not going to track that because there's no date allocated. So that's why we've got to make sure all the data is being entered. So what that's doing is telling us how many businesses we've actually started the process on. Is probably a good way to describe it. That's what that column is here, and telling us that every week. And over here we've got activities, if you like, of like emails sent. It's saying the activity is the first row here. This is the bounced emails or the return letters or the follow-up phone calls of no interest. It's tracking all that sort of information as well. Our success rate is tracking that as well. Now some of this may need to be modified. Some of the formulas need to be modified because until you sort of use it and throw data in, it's a little bit hard to accurately work out exactly what this functionality needs to be over here. So I suggest you just use it for a week and then send it back. And I'm pretty certain there's going to be a lot of changes. So just get through that, and then we'll see what this is revealing over the time. But there's a sort of a blank section here I'm not using yet. It's tracking activities, tracking bounce, tracking our success rate. When you get appointments booked, it's tracking that. And then when you're getting even new clients won, if you're entering that, that's a good idea. And then it'll tell you conversion rate from appointments to clients won as well. So you can track that activity over time. So that's about it. And then it all compounds into monthly data as well and shows you the results of our successes and what your outcome has been for each of these as well. So I suggest you use it for a week or so and then get back to me and let's have a look and do some modifications.